How's it been going so far with Ignite? How do you guys like it so far?
That's pretty good. It's my third time.
Is it your third time?
Yeah.
Interesting. And do you
Yeah.
find that you're like each time that you've done it, you're getting different things and with
Oh,
different,
definitely.
I guess, trainers and different people and different personalities, you're benefiting from it a lot?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first time I ever took it, I conveniently, like the week after I got my license, it started. So that time was just a whirlwind. And then the second
Yeah.
time was through the first year of COVID, I guess. And then now. So yeah, I'm 5 years this June. So
Wow.
it's totally different.
That's great. And I bet the first time round was probably like information overload,
Oh yeah.
right? What about you, Marcelo? How are you liking it so far?
I like the few sessions that I was part of it. Like I missed the last two or three, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's for me. It's everything is new. so
Yeah.
I'm trying to take advantage of everything as possible.
What's been the best part so far?
Well, it's the just to how can I say? It's just to man, you put me on the spot right now. It's the lead generation. Yeah. Like I've been more outgoing, talking to people and all that. The things that I needed to do. I've been doing it for quite a few months. After I did Bolt too, like half of it, because I got sick. But yeah, it's just not being a secret agent, how we usually say, like just talk to people.
Yeah. And that's really the key. And it's interesting too, like everyone has a different style. I think we all have relatively the same expectations or goals because we want to, we've gone in this to be entrepreneurs and self-employed, really. So we want to make money. It's not a bad thing to talk about that. And it's about, how do we get there? I think that like systems like this and Keller Williams specifically, it's really helpful. And like when Alex says that this is his third time around, like that's awesome because we're constantly growing. The first time around, you might take, a few little tidbits. Second time around, you're building on that. And so I think that's really great. And I know I can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other people muted. Can you guys just let me know if you're actually here or not? Because I can't see your faces.
Yeah, I'm here. Morning, everybody.
Joanne.
And I'm here.
Okay, lovely. If you guys don't mind, because this is the first time I'm teaching Ignite, can you just let me know who you are and how long you've been in the business? Because that I think will help as we move forward with this lessons. Can we start with Joanne?
Hi, Melanie. I have your bug, so I can't talk very long because I'm going to coughing fits.
That was me last week. Yes. There is light at the end of the tunnel, I promise you.
There is. Oh, I pulled an all-nighter. I was up doing turkey soup. I couldn't sleep. I didn't want to wake up my husband. So I'm only just half here. So I've been in since 2018. I got in less than a week after my mother passed away, actually. So I was planning a funeral and taking a course and doing all kinds of wonderful things. I had my own company for 25 years and I just always loved real estate. So it's a whole new journey for me.
What was your company?
We owned and operated Uniac Insulators. And yeah, so it was really good. I was sad to see it go, but the weather and change and all the competition, and we were getting older and, it was very much a family business. So it was just time to kind of let it go. And so I looked after my mother until she passed away. And then, because she said she was more important than a job. So I was like, okay, well, all right. And so, I wasn't quite sure if I'd be able to do it, but it turned out that she died on the 2nd and I started class on the 8th. And it was a ride. It took me about a year, actually. I joined another brokerage and I shouldn't have because I wasn't ready. I was still grieving. I was still a mess. But but life kind of sent me flying down a bunch of stairs, and life had me immobile for a little while, and lots of challenges. And I have a huge family, so this Ignite has been really great because I'm not I know how I was in the business, and I'm a real people person, but I'm not a salesperson. Yeah. And one thing I took from Ignite was I can be me. I don't have to be that pushy person, because I like to kind of be in the background, and I like to help and support. I don't like to be out there in anyone's face trying to get work. So it's really it's a challenge, but that's what I got from Ignite, is as an overload of information, how to, and I don't have to be anyone other than me. And if it works out, it works out. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. So this year I'm trying to give it my all before I decide, between COVID and, and accident injuries and life challenges. It's time. So yeah, so I'm enjoying.
I think that's great. And I think that like, you're 100% right on. Like when you talk about making it your own, because in sales, when you say that you're not a salesperson, you probably are more of a salesperson than what you really think. But in order for us to be successful, and we're going to talk about a lot of like strengthening relationships, that's basically what we're starting with today. We're going to try to get through 2 classes, and I think we're going to make it. I feel confident, but making it your own is more like it's natural, and you will naturally build clients and customers' confidence in you when you have confidence in yourself. So doing it your own way and taking all these little tidbits from everything that you're learning through the course and making it your own is you're spot on with that. That's the best route to go. One other question for you. What was the other brokerage that you were at?
What was the what?
What was the other brokerage that you were with?
I started with Assist-A-Sell.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And it was, yeah, it went when I made the move. Wow. it was really, I had turned 60 when I got my course, and I didn't like to be micromanaged. I ran my own company for over 25 years. And that is very much that was getting, I had to bite my tongue a lot. And I did not like that. And I thought, this is not for me. I can't be micromanaged like that. So that was when the fall down the stairs happened, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk. I literally took a tumble down an apartment building stairs, and I was stopped. And so when I was sitting there and doing my therapy, and I couldn't go down with clients. So I wasn't going to, if I couldn't do the stairs and I couldn't walk, I wasn't going to show them the house. And so I had to take some time out. And that was when I know Anne from our own company, we did a lot of work for her for years. And so actually, yeah, so it was, I ended up reaching out to her, and this is where I ended up.
Wonderful. Wow,
yeah.
That's great.
Much better fit.
All right. How about Mike? Mike, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We just can't see you, but that's okay.
I was just coughing there. Yeah, I've been over 20 years, but my story was about the same thing. I started getting sick about 6 or 7 years ago. Yeah. So I really haven't been selling in that time. I've kept my license, maintained it, do a couple deals a year, but I'm not actively working.
Okay. And so like joining Ignite, were you thinking that this is just going to sort of spark you into new energy, or what were you thinking?
Well, I'm like that last lady, I'm handicapped right now. I've got 2 pinched sciatic nerves in my back, and it takes the legs out from under me. Oh, so I can't go up and down stairs. I can barely walk some days. So what I was hoping was that I've been debating on whether or not I should have an operation on my back. I said no at first, but I don't know if I want to walk again. I think I'm going to have to. So, oh, wow. So I just keep on thinking, one of these days I'm going to get my legs underneath me, and I'm going to have to go back to work full time. Yeah. So the more of these pick me ups I can take and, get educated so I can hit the road running kind of thing, the better. But I don't know when and if it's actually going to happen.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing and sad at the same time. Hopefully you make the right decision. And I know it's always tough going through surgeries, but sometimes you got to do it, right?
Well, I don't worry about surgeries that much, but on my spine, I do.
Of course. Yeah.
That's the one that, and I'm pretty frank. I'm getting old. And I asked the surgeon straight out, am I going to roll out of here? Am I going to walk out of here? And he said, well, we're pretty successful, but, stuff happens. Okay. if there's 5% that has a problem, I'm always at 5%. So
let's not go down there. And so 20 years in the industry, and have you been with a number of brokerages or always Keller Williams?
No, I went to Keller Williams because most of the older brokerages and older agents in my brokers went to Keller Williams. Okay. I'm ex-Royal LePage.
Yeah.
And excuse me, it was interesting when I first started. My first 4 years in the business, I went to 5 brokerages.
Yeah.
I was like Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, you know, the bed had to fit or I wasn't staying. So I went to the first one and I stayed there, excuse me, 9 months. And then I left and went somewhere else. And I won't tell you who the brokerage. The next one, I was only there 3 months. And I said, like, it's the wrong place. Yeah. So when I finally got around to going to Royal LePage, which I should have gone there at that time. And when I got there, I said, yeah, this one fits. This is the place for me. So I spent 15 years there. And it was just getting too young. I just felt out of place, and everybody my age, they were leaving, and everybody seemed to be landing at Keller Williams. So I came over there to be with people I knew.
Right.
Yeah.
Good story. I can relate in my beginning.
And it's a good fit.
Yeah. I think that, well, I've been with a number of brokerages as well, and I've only been in for 7 years. So, but I can honestly say that Keller Williams has won me over in every way possible. And I think they do for a lot of people. And this is a prime example, like the training and the systems that they have in place are really just there to help everyone, right?
Yeah.
And other brokerages don't have it. Like people think that they do. Grass is never greener on the other side, but in this case it was. Like Keller Williams was a great move for me as well. So I can relate to you on that one. How about you, David? Is David still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Just had to unmute there. Yeah, I've been licensed for just over 3 years now. And just building my business. So this has been pretty beneficial, just getting a bit of a spark under my butt and not being the secret agent. That's kind of something that's really resonated in my mind. It's like I'm out quite a lot, interacting with people all over the place, and you know, a good lot of them really just have no idea what I do. And so I've been a lot more proactive in, you know, just talking it up a little bit with people if I'm not holding them up anywhere, like the gas station, for instance. I go in there all the time. You know, I recognize the main person in there. She's generally always there. Last time I went in, I just started talking about, work's been busy, you know, and things are going pretty well. The market's crazy. Oh, what do you do? And then the card goes out and she says, you know, I'm going to pass this along to somebody. And so I mean, just anywhere is an opportunity. And that's something I've been kind of picking up from this course in particular. So it's been really good.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, is like creating habits for ourselves. And there's certainly been many opportunities when I've reflected, like maybe chatting with someone at a garage sale or something, and, you know, not actually going down that path of telling someone what I do when we're in that conversation. And I think if we start to work it into like our everyday conversations and everywhere we go in a natural way, it's going to just benefit us, because it's going to naturally, you know, grow really our business. We have to get our names out there and tell people what we do. And the secret agent is a funny term, but it's so relative. I think we all at some point in our lives are that secret agent. And it's funny, I've used the term before that I like to fly under the radar. And I live my life that way. And in the past year, I've made a conscious effort, and definitely going into real estate has changed sort of my mindset as well. But made a conscious effort to really put myself out there. And it's one of the reasons why I'm on the ALC and now agreed to do these courses, because I normally wouldn't do this. Like I'm a very quiet, private person, and I do fly under the radar. And maybe some people might call me a secret agent, but I'm determined not to be that anymore. So with your 3 years, you've always been with Keller Williams?
Yes. I had used Keller Williams when we bought our cottage and our house, actually, and also referred some friends to them. It was just,
you had a good experience.
Oh yeah, it was excellent. That was the thing that really drew me in. And when I thought about coming into the industry, I contacted an agent who had actually just retired, the one that we had worked with in the Valley here. So I had a really long conversation with her. We kind of became business friends in a way through the transaction.
Yeah.
So anyway, she just, encouraged me to come in and have a talk. And I went into the broker and just got some more information. And it took me quite a while to kind of get off the fence and, pull the trigger and get in here. But I just like the culture. So anyway, I started in doing the pre-licensing class with Chad.
Right.
And that just absolutely sealed the deal. I thought this is so helpful. And, I learned a lot about the KW culture and that there as well. So I didn't even think about going to any other brokerages. That was just it.
That's great. And I think that too, like 3 years in, like you've come in at a very unique and a really unique time in our industry. And, the reason why I kind of wanted to talk to each one of you guys and figure out what your background is because normally we'd be doing this in like a classroom session where you'd be like breaking out with people and having group conversations. And we're skipping all that today. But I think that with everyone's variety of background, we'll be able to have good conversations over some of the stuff we can talk about as opposed to breaking into groups. So we just have 3 more people. I know Tanya messaged me. She's rounding up her dog right now, but how about Cameron? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello.
Start my video for you. I have only been licensed for 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, just getting started.
Awesome.
And obviously I've had some days that are a little bit disheartening, like all the freedom. You really do have to be self-motivated to participate in this industry. But these lessons have really been helpful for me to realize that we're all kind of struggling with the same issues. It's about introducing yourself to people, letting people know that you're a realtor, letting them know that, for me, I chose to go with Maureen, the Ferguson home sales team. Right. So I'm not just going out there and saying, trust me, I know what I'm doing. I actually have a great team to back me up.
Yeah, of course. She's awesome.
She's awesome. Yeah, she's really great. I feel really lucky to be with Maureen. I actually, one of my classmates got me connected with Maureen, Jody Watt, who's on our team as well. Okay. I was all but signed to RE/MAX. I was about to sign the paperwork because they had me with the pool table and the parties and the events. Like that's kind of what I was attracted to. And I met Maureen and I met Laura Lee and I realized that that's not what this industry is about. I can do that on my free time. Yes. I can do the axe throwing tomorrow with everybody. And I can actually have people mentor me and show me the way to do real estate as opposed to making it a like fun environment.
Right.
And of course, as a young person, that's what I was attracted to. But Maureen is loads of fun. I gotta tell you.
Of course, she's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Well, welcome. So nice to have a very fresh person on our team here.
Yes, I'm always open to advice.
Right. Okay, and Colin?
I think that's a AI thing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that Otter is like a new like dictating app. Like,
yeah, I was like, I don't recognize that name.
yeah. There's like a new artificial intelligence app called Otter that like just logs in and like dictates. So it's typing all this that I'm saying right now.
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, how about Joanne? Did you find your dog yet? Maybe. Okay, we'll wait for Joanne. I may have to do some dog wrangling myself. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself and then we'll just dive into this and keep moving forward fairly quickly. Sorry. My name is Melanie Taylor. I've been with Keller Williams for a couple of years now. I've been in the industry for 7 years. I've been with a number of different brokerages for a variety of reasons. A lot of people, think that's a horrible thing, but honestly, I think it was the path I had to follow to get to this point today. I learned a lot along the way about what I appreciate, what I don't appreciate, and where is the best fit for me. And I'm really happy that I landed at Keller Williams, and I don't ever plan on leaving. So having said that, in my personal life, I live with my husband and our 2 fur babies. We have a combination of 6 kids altogether, and thank God they're all out of the house, but they haven't actually left my purse yet. So some of them have, but not all of them. Anyhow, love real estate. In my previous life, I was a designer and business owner. I specialized in custom millwork, which is basically anything to do with wood and space planning, new construction, that type of industry. Over 25 years, I did that. And I think it was an easy transition for me to go from that into real estate, because a lot of the things that we're even going to talk about today, I can completely relate to my previous life. I think so often when we think about lead generation, and whether it's door knocking or picking up the phone, or even just getting a listing appointment and going up to that house for the first time and knocking on the door, it can be pretty overwhelming, and it can be really uncomfortable for a lot of people. Like Marcelo, you came from an accounting background, right? Where you were probably sitting in an office and maybe doing most of your transactions on the computer, or maybe the odd phone call here and there. But were you walking up to strangers and starting conversations?
No, not at all.
So, I feel very fortunate that my background has allowed me to have a little bit more of a, I guess, easier go into real estate. But having said that, it's still a tough go. You're still self-employed. You still have to do the work to see the results. So the first thing we're going to go through today is about strengthening relationships. And then we're going to head to our next session after that. And I plan on being done by noon. Does that sound reasonable? Mm-hmm.
Good.
All right. I'm not a super techie person, so we're going to try this out. I'm going to share my screen with you and get to the first slide. I think, let's see. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask a really silly question, but can you see me as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this one's all about strengthening relationships. And we're going to go through a few different things. Basically, establishing a mindset is going to be the first. Sorry, I just got to figure out how to move this.
If you click play at the top, Melanie, it'll put it full screen, and then you can use your arrows.
Okay. How about that?
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Excuse me for 1 second. Sorry, first round of wrangling dogs. Okay. All right. So this is basically what we're going to look at today for the agenda. So talking about mindset, identifying goals, devise a plan, recap, and discuss like success systems going forward. I know like we're all on Zoom, so I encourage anybody, if you have any input as we go along, just to jump in and just start talking, whether it's sharing scenarios. I feel like, you know, the books don't tell us everything. And sometimes like real life experiences really resonate with the rest of us, more so than just, you know, reading something out of a book, right? Does anybody have any, I guess, things they want to talk about, challenges that they've had, or, I don't know, scenarios where you've had to overcome struggles or negative elements, you know, when thinking about your mindset in this industry? Anybody want to share anything?
Yeah, it's definitely a roller coaster. I guess I always think like when I'm getting down or like I got no closings for a month or 2 or 3 or whatever, you always got to think like you're a phone call away from a $10,000 check.
Yeah.
And that's like something that I always just like put back in my head, that like it can change so quickly, just even on its own. But so if you are also, like my coach said, if you're also just out there hunting for it too, what if it changes on its own from your hunting or your lead gen, and also from that just out of the blue referral? He said, right. So that's just something that like it can always change, and it's like it's a direct reflection of what you're putting into it. If you're sitting on the couch just waiting for the phone to ring, you're probably gonna do a half dozen deals a year. But if you're out grinding and talking to people and meet people, sky's the limit.
Yes. And also too, and even for you know, there's a big difference between newer agents coming into the industry and people who have been in it for a number of years, who have followed their processes and can testify to, like, you know, sometimes, like for instance, probably about a month ago, I got a phone call from someone who I met in my very first year. And, you know, I didn't know them really well, but I put them into my database. And each time I changed brokerages, I would send them a little note and say, hey, by the way, even though people, again, sort of frown on that, but I kept in touch with that person, a light touch. Then they came back around and were ready to buy a house. And that was, you know, 6 years later. So a lot of times, you know, you might feel like in times that are a little bit slower, or times that are, you know, people are struggling, you still got to put in that time, because it will pay off. It might not be tomorrow and it might not be next month, but it's going to pay off. So it's about keeping, you know, keeping our spirits high, I guess, and wanting to work. And that's the toughest thing, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still trying to figure out how to change my slides. Jessica, can you guys see the slide?
Yeah. Can you with like your arrows?
Yeah, I tried that.
Changed now.
Yeah, that's really bizarre because it skipped. Okay. Do you guys have do you have Ignite books that you're looking at while we're going through this? Or are you just here listening?
I got the book.
You have a book, okay. So basically by the end of today, we're going to, well, the end of the hour, hopefully we're going to apply following principles to leads, to contacts, create 36 to convert to touch plan, design use for MOFR. Does everyone know what MOFR is?
I've heard of it, but I need reminded.
No.
I've heard this many, many times, and I could never remember what it is, but it's make offer for immediate response. Make offer for immediate response. It's like a basic marketing tool. It doesn't matter what business you're in. You know, when we're putting ourselves out there to generate leads, it's basically making an offer to get immediate response, to see what we can dig up, right? And then also develop a strategy to grow the number of contacts in our database. Can anybody share maybe some tools that they're working on right now, or tools they've worked on in the past about building their database and what works for you?
My cup of tea, thanks.
Anyone?
Didn't hear the question.
I'm looking to know, like, who would like to share some of their skills of growing their database, growing your leads, and what works for you.
Yeah, I just like talk to everybody I can. I mean, the law of reciprocation. Like, if you reach out to somebody about something they're doing, they're going to in turn ask about your business. Everyone loves to talk about real estate, whether they own it or not. So that's my thing, is I just like, the general people I talk to on my phone, Facebook, my database, just make contacts every day. It can, and even if it's like doesn't get asked, don't force it. Like, just let it go, and people will. And then next time you talk to them, maybe it will come up. And then just my biggest thing that I've focused on this year is like every little drip is a lead.
Yes.
And like you just mentioned before, like the long term, like your guys from like 6 years ago, like Ann De Silva told me, like, in my first year, she goes, well, aren't you going to want to get paid in spring of 25? Like, that person you're talking to today that says they might be a year or two out, like, just keep talking to them. Like, it doesn't have to be every day, and you don't got to send them listings every week, but like, talk to them once a quarter, or even once every 4 or 5 months. Just let them know you're still kicking around, and eventually they're just going to not work with anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And what did you do before real estate?
Auto collision. I painted and fixed cars for 10 years.
Get out. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. And so, like, other than the obvious, was real estate something that you were always interested in?
It started to be, because I started like getting on I guess, what would it be, like the how do people get wealthy, and like 9 out of 10 move and transact properties. Erin, like when we met, she already worked for Keller, so I was starting to be around it more and more. And yeah, then I just started, I needed a change, so I was going to get into sales on the automotive side, and then was told to avoid that. And then, honestly, as bad as it is, I went to a couple events, met a few people, and I was just like, oh my God, if they can sell houses, I can sell houses.
So, and I was going to ask you, like, when you were first starting out, did you reach out to people that you worked with before in the auto industry and say, hey, I'm doing this?
I haven't, like, so I worked at Dartmouth Dodge for 10 years, pretty much my whole auto career. I actually have a Dartmouth Dodge tag in my command. I've probably done 6 transactions so far, as like just directly from that one dealership.
Yeah. And that's a mindset too, right? Like, it's, I don't know, when we think about when you first start in reaching out all those avenues of, you know, where you worked, who you're related to, who do you know, who have you done business with in the past? That's all about mindset, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that Dodge badge. That's great. Mm-hmm. Has anybody, in this group used QR codes? No, this is just a new thing that I'm thinking about exploring. And they were really big for a long time. Do you think that, like, so is your Dodge badge, is it something that someone can scan, or is it just like a logo of information?
No, it's just a tag I keep in my command to keep track of people and transactions that have come from there, whether it is directly an employee there or a referral of somebody from there. Right, just so I can like keep touch, because that's like one of my lead gen, like one of my lead gen times is I just go to the dealership and see all the people I used to know, maybe get introduced to a few new people, and that's like your day of door knocking or calling, like just that's general touch there.
And what about cross marketing? Do you do any of that with them?
No, I don't. I'm going to probably get into I want to try to get into a little bit of it. It's just the demographics change there so much. I'm starting to like naturally just lose it because it's been 5 years since I left. Right. And if you're like any business, the changeover, like I probably only know 50% of the people there now, where it used to be 100.
Yeah. I would think the changeover would be high in that industry.
It is. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Anyone else? Anybody else want to share what works for them? I can honestly say I've never door knocked, but I've heard that people have had great success with it. There's a couple agents that I know offhand that make their whole career out of door knocking. I'm sure we all know who that is, but has anybody knocked on doors? Marcelo, you're laughing. Have you knocked on doors?
No. It's a thing that I want to do, but I think I'm going to start because, I've been blessed that now I'm getting results. Sorry, I want to have 2 listings coming up, so that's when I want to do the door knocking around the block just to get my course going.
And you know another I guess door knockings are on your listings. Awesome. Maybe even in your neighborhood, like where you live, because isn't one of your listings coming up? It's close to you, right?
Yeah, actually my neighbor, she gave me the opportunities. Well, she knew that I was getting my license, my realtor license, and then she was nice enough to consider me for the listing, and I'm doing it next month.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
you must be a nice guy, Marcelo. You like you that much.
Yeah,
and what it like easy to me, like that's easy in, like to knock on someone's door. It's I think the first 10 would probably be nerve-wracking, and then after that it might get easier. But especially since you have that listing being your neighbor, you could knock on, everyone in your community and say, not only do I live here, but see my sign went up down the road, Yeah. So it's a natural way to start a conversation with somebody.
And also I've been trying to connect with the Spanish community, and actually I got a listing from Facebook on a Facebook lead, and I'm doing an event actually this month, so with the Spanish community. So I'm trying to do that. Good too. For you. Yeah.
Good for you.
That's cool.
Here's something that I do, and it's not really lead generating, but it actually helps my business. My dog just totally fell asleep and rolled off the bench. You okay? And I'm going to share it with you guys. I don't know anyone else who's doing this. And if they are, maybe they're just not telling anybody. But when you have a listing, so for you agents here that have had listings before, who do you think is getting the most leads off of your listing? Where are those leads coming from?
Like realtor.ca?
Maybe. Anyone else?
How about another local real estate brokerage?
You're closer. Yes. It's going to be the Viewpoint agent.
That's what I meant.
Yep. So every time I have a listing come up, and I was with Viewpoint for 6 months, so I can tell you how they work and how they run their brokerage. It's all algorithm and PID numbers. So on one street, let's say, you know, 3 listings came up on the same street. It might actually go to 2, the PIDs would be split up between 2 different local agents that actually work in that area. And then what happens is, you know, like us and, you know, buyers that are out there, everyone uses their website because it is awesome. We can all admit that. We use it for everything. Well, maybe not everything, but we use it as a source, right? It's a very visual aspect for people to quickly see, you know, what's for sale, what's sold, and what's sold in the community and whatnot. Anyhow, you'll notice that there's always that little tab with a face, book a showing, and it's always right beside every listing. So people who don't know better, and sometimes people who do know better, will just click on that tab and it instantly, the lead goes to that agent. So every time I have a listing, and soon as it goes on to MLS, Viewpoint is pulling the information from MLS every 10 minutes. So it gets refreshed. I see who that realtor is, and then I reach out to them and I say, hey, Mr. Matt Swain, how's it going today? You know, or whoever the agent is. And then I tell them about the listing. And then I also take all my documents that I normally have on MLS and I send them to the Viewpoint agent. And the reason why I do this is because, okay, Betty, come on, get down. The reason why I do that is because Viewpoint agents, as soon as they get that little click from a potential buyer, they then have the option to, do I want to deal with this person, or do I want to ship it off to the new person, or I'm a little bit busy today, I'll give it off to someone else. So they have the option to actually send that lead to another agent in the Viewpoint office. And so what I've noticed is sometimes if it's a lower price point, or if it's maybe like a land lease community and they don't really know much about it, or, you know, I guess there's a variety of reasons why they would put it off. But to capture potential, I guess to maximize my potential buyers, by contacting that Viewpoint agent, sending them all the documents and calling them and saying, hey, it's this awesome little house. I noticed it's under you. So if you get any inquiries, here's all the information that you need. And it's really easy. So it's at their fingertips and they don't have to search for any information. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does anybody see why that would be valuable?
Well, yeah, it's a lot easier for them to close that lead and potentially put your listing under contract.
Right. And it really works. Sorry, I just have to get water.
There was an agent at Prudential Property Specialist. Can you hear me?
Yep.
There was a lead at Prudential Property Specialist years ago, and he played on the same hockey team for years. And when he got into real estate, he had nobody, and yet he made Rookie of the Year. And I asked him one time, you know, how he got there, and he said, well, you know, funny thing is I used to work at a Tim Hortons. So when I got my real estate license, I always went back to that Tim Hortons and would have my coffees here because I knew all the people that came in there to drink. He said, I got a third of my business from that place. And he said, every time I went to the rink, every Tuesday night, we played hockey with this. I think they were called the old Buzzards. He said, I had the phone up to my head talking about real estate, whether or not there was anyone on the other end of that line or not. He said, I walked in the change room talking about real estate. And he said, at the end of the game, when we were finishing up and drinking our beer, there was always somebody that asked me about real estate. And it started the conversation. He said, I got a third of my business out of that one hockey team.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's a great story, actually. And it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So the point there is, look, if you have a team, if you don't have a team, find a team. If you're a parent, start coaching your kids' hockey team, soccer team, whatever. Get involved with those parents, and you learn who the other parents are, the kids that you're coaching, and you've got another center of influence.
Exactly. That's the one thing, like my youngest stepson played hockey. My other kids, though, they were more arts driven, but I can totally see how any type of sports related or something like that it'll always generate. It is what it is what you put into it, right?
Yeah.
I finally got my slides to work. So have you guys seen this diagram before?
Yeah.
I know Alex has seen it 3 times now. So it's, for me, I'm a visual person. So this makes sense, right? You're capturing a lead, you're getting it into your database, you're transforming your lead into like more of a contact. So you're strengthening that relationship. It's all about how are you strengthening that relationship? Are you, reaching out to them on a regular basis? Are you calling them? Are you sending them something? Or how are you changing that lead into a firm contact so that you can basically get a sale out of it? How do you think we would define the difference between a lead and a contact? Anybody?
It's like panning for gold.
Yeah, I love that, Mike. I love that, panning for gold. Exactly.
So the gold that drops out, that's the leads. That's the ones you're following up with to try and get the money.
Yeah, and it could be, when we even talk about time frame, like when you're putting in the effort and continuing to put in the effort, something can, fall through that pan in a month, or something could fall through in 5 years. At some point, hopefully it's going to come back around to you when you're putting in the effort, right? Does everybody use command here?
Yeah.
Command's pretty amazing. I can honestly say there is not, there's not another brokerage out there that has the type of systems in place that we have. Next to us, I would probably say would be Viewpoint, only because they are how do I say this? They're like a tech-driven brokerage, right? So their systems, it's pretty neat what they have. It isn't so much about creating a database and capturing our leads and moving them through the different stages that we have set up and showing us what our potential income can be and probable income. Theirs is more about initial sales. So they make that a really simple thing. But, and Mike, you might have something to say about this too. You've been around for 20 years and you've been with Royal LePage, but no one else has a system like what we have. And I think that it's really cool when you can really dive into it. Like, I'm still learning stuff every day about command. And it's there really to take what we see on this slide and help us move it through the stages. And whether it's, putting in little notes about people, maybe what are their pets' names, how many kids do they have, where do they play hockey, all those things to help us remember on what we maybe want to talk about, to move that from a lead into an actual contact. And it's all about, strengthening that relationship. And how do we do that? I think that too, like, a lot of times it doesn't really come natural to a lot of people on how to, if you have a lead, I guess how do you get that information from the people to sort of build a stronger relationship? And I feel like I do it well, and I do it efficiently because of my background. But I'll tell you something, I learn a lot from my husband as well. And he's not in sales, he's in construction, but he's an extremely personable person and surprises me all the time. So I kind of feel like, you know, knowledge is power. So when you're a realtor, any little thing that we can find out about that particular person, or let's say a lead, is going to help us do our job better, right? And I think about one scenario where we were traveling somewhere, and on the way back, our second flight was full, and they did some seat, you know, shifting, and we weren't sitting together. Just not the end of the world. But when we got off that flight and we were walking to the baggage area, he said to me, he's like, oh, yeah, the guy that I was sitting beside is a really interesting man. And he continued to tell me this guy's entire life story. So, you know, I think the flight was maybe only about 2 hours. So in that 2 hours time, I can guarantee you, he talked the entire time, but more importantly, he asked questions and he showed an interest. And this person completely opened up to him. And at the end of it, he was like, yeah, he gave to me, he's like, here's his name and number. I didn't have one of your cards in my wallet, but he's getting ready. He wants to buy a property in Nova Scotia within the next year. And I think that, you know, the combination, it blows my mind sometimes, like, because he does it so naturally. And I think when we get into the mindset of like, just really having a passion for our business and not putting the pressure on ourselves, like, oh my gosh, I can't remember people's names. I got to write it down. Talking to them and asking the right questions not only makes them feel comfortable, but it's giving you information so that you can take mental notes or written notes or whatever it may be, so that you can continue to build on that relationship. Does that make sense to anyone?
Yeah.
Do you find that hard to do?
Yeah. I was bad for a long time when I would get a lead, especially like a online one. I would email or text with like almost like a 0% conversion rate, but that was like the easy thing to do on the fly. And this year I've made a point, like, call. It's totally different. Yeah. Because if they do answer, they give answers. Whereas, because most time people don't filter as quickly when it's verbally on the phone. Whereas if you send them a text or an email, it's very easy to just like delete it and forget it ever happened.
Yeah, exactly. And in this time of day where it's like, you know, everyone's sending text messages. Like yesterday, I think I got 3 or 4 text messages from different lead generation companies. I just ignore them all. But honestly, if one of them actually phoned me and were talking to me in person, I'd probably answer their questions. So it's the same concept, right?
You probably wouldn't, because you can't understand them.
Right. All right. So focus on building relationships and take market share. Top KW agent. Today's conversation is tomorrow's transaction. That makes sense. I love the little picture. Once you meet your new contacts, you either do business with them immediately or you go either way. Once you've met them, put them into your database and stay in touch with them forever. This is a really interesting one. It's out of the Shift book. Has everybody read the Shift book? No. I know they just did it recently. I don't know if you guys finished it or not with Janice. I'm going to be really honest. I think it's a great book. I had a hard time getting into it. I've circled back like 3 or 4 times, and it's just now starting to more resonate with me. It just took a couple times. But this is a great quote. And it makes a lot of sense when we're talking about like length of time. I think in the beginning, if someone had said to me when I first started real estate, you know, how important it was to, you know, have someone in your database and circle back with them on a regular basis, because, you know, sales might come 5 years from now. I don't know if I would have believed them or not, you know, but it is the actual truth. Like, that database is gold, and we have to keep building and following up with people, because it comes back around. We want to keep in touch with them forever. And guess what? Like, what happens if, like, I don't know, like, if eventually I'm going to stop working, and I have technically 2 children who are currently in real estate. One of them has her realtor license, but she is a full-time university student, so she's parked her license with KW. The other one, you know, she's going to be 29 in a few months. And Marcelo, you know, Raina. So she's our assistant for our team. She does plan on getting her license. And if I'm not doing it for me, then I should be doing this for someone else. So if I plan to retire in a couple of years, I would love to take my database and hand it over to one of my kids so that they could then continue. And it's not only about bringing them business, but also respect for the people in my database. I want to keep them looked after at the same time, right? Does that make sense to anyone?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting very dry here. All right.
I hear rum is good for the throat.
Yeah, I thought about it, but you know, I'll wait till this is done and then celebrate. Okay. So.
There's always honey.
Sorry?
I say there's always honey.
I do. I actually made some Indian tea with some honey and masala, and I'm going in between that and water. So hopefully my voice stays for the rest of this. All right. So moving forward, we got to keep plugging away here. I do get off on tangents. Mm-hmm. So this graph here, a lead follow-up graph, does this make sense to anyone? Like, looking at this in a visual way, like lead generation being a smaller portion, your lead follow-up and conversations larger, and then turning into a transaction. Does anyone see that looking a different way? Would you say that majority of your time is being spent with that lead follow-up and conversations?
Yeah.
And then the transactions are a smaller portion.
Mm-hmm.
I think the transactions, that's like usually the easy part, right? Like the hard part is the lead gen and the follow-up. That's where we're spending all of our time, but we know that transaction at the end is the reward, and we can all do that very easily. And so most of our time is spent in the beginning. It's like a building block, how people refer to, like, you know, a business being like a home where you have to put the foundation in first, because if you don't do the foundation, the rest of the house is going to fall down or not last. So it's like the foundation. If we're not doing the lead gen and the follow-up and creating that conversation, it's not going to turn into a transaction. Has anyone ever had a person just call you out of the blue, maybe a referral, and they're like, yeah, you don't know who I am, but so-and-so referred me to you. I need you to come over tomorrow and list my house.
Quite often.
It happens. And it's still this same graph, because that lead follow-up in the middle section there, you already did it with someone else. So even though someone's just phoning you out of the blue, you've already put into that work for that referral to come, right? So it's sort of like thinking outside the box. They come from everywhere. Second here. It's 10 after 11. Do you guys mind if we take a 5-minute break?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you. We'll come back at 11:15-ish.
Yeah, hi Debbie. It's Mike Arthur calling from Keller Williams. Hi. Not too bad. Just calling on Masthead. Oh, okay. Well, that's not bad. At least it's not COVID. You know, we'll be looking at weeks.
Yeah. So apparently from Easter game.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah. So anyways, they went to the whole house.
Wow.
They're hoping, because usually it only lasts up to 48 hours or something.
Yeah.
And then they should be good to go. So yeah. So anytime after
Easter will never be the same for them.
Exactly. Yeah,
Well, it was too bad. Okay, yeah. We'll rebook tomorrow night for 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
I did for today, but I'll put it in for tomorrow now.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thanks, Debbie. Oh, anything else you can tell me about the house? Mm-hmm.
Just the way the market was going, you know, starting to come down.
Yeah.
Not pleased. So, but no, it's a great house. The townhouse next door will have a fire, and the insurance company is working on it right now. So, but it didn't affect their nothing.
Okay.
So you can take a look at it.
Okay. Super. Okay.
Right.
Thanks, Debbie.
Great.
Bye. Paragon Masthead.
I know. You my good girl. Is everyone back?
Yep.
Marcelo,
Yep.
Are you at home today? Marcelo, are you at home?
Yeah, I'm at home right now.
Nice.
I have to meet the photographer later on. I'm so excited.
Very good. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah.
Joanne, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Lovely. You had some dog wrangling. I'm doing the same, except now she's sitting on me. All right, so we'll just keep moving forward here. So basically what we're trying to do is we're kind of trying to do our lead follow-up, converting it into an actual appointment. This slide is really interesting. So I don't know, what's your opinion? When you look at this, what do you actually see? Basically, we have to be top of mind for things to happen, right? And how do we stay top of mind? Is by constant or continual or regular, consistent, I guess would be a good word to use, reaching out to our leads so that we can convert them into actual business. I was actually a little bit surprised by some of these stats. I thought they would be a little bit different, but this is straight from NAR. So, and I believe they took it from 2021. Anybody have any comments about this at all? Makes sense to everyone? Yes, no? All right.
With COVID interfering with things and skewing the market, all the stats probably changed dramatically.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Like it's I think we need an update. I would guess the next session will probably be all updated, but yeah, like they're saying that in 2021, 47% of buyers who used an agent were referred to them by a friend, neighbor, or relative. And that actually jumps to 57% for first-time home buyers. And I think we can all agree, like first-time home buyers, what are you going to do? Like, if you don't even know where to start, you're probably going to ask, maybe your parents first or someone really close to you. And everybody, let's be real, everyone knows a realtor. Everybody does, right?
During the last 2 years, I would say a lot of buyers called the listing agent directly because they wanted the advantage.
Yeah. And I agree with you there, Mike. Like and I found that, I always like to say to people that Nova Scotia I feel like we have a higher level of compliance, and that when we experience the influx of people coming from out of province, they have a different expectation, and they have different, ideas of how to get things done for themselves. And so I would agree with you. Like I had even people from BC call me off of a sign call and straight up said to me, how much are you going to pay me back if I go with you, as, if you write the offer? Like, it's crazy. And that's a normal thing in BC.
And that's why the BC board's in trouble. Right.
Exactly. And in Ontario too. I kind of put them both, the two provinces, in the same category of problematic issues. My oldest daughter is 30 and she lives in Toronto. And just recently, her and her partner went to put an offer in on a condo. And, she called me and she was telling me about it. So I was asking her a few questions, and I said, I had given you someone to call, and how come you haven't reached out to that person? She's like, oh, well, this agent that we're dealing with told me that, I can only use him, and he also does mortgages. So we have to use him for our mortgage as well. She's like, it just seems weird to me. I'm like, yeah, that's really weird. Don't do it. But it's, I don't know if it's just because of the population or what, but it's there's a lot of things that happen in the larger area, metropolis cities, that we don't do here. And it might maybe throw someone off. Like, if you're new to the industry, like Marcelo, I know you came from Ontario, but if you had a call off of a sign and they said, what Mike just said, like, we want to deal with you directly because we think we're going to get a better deal. As a new agent, you might not even know how to respond to that. Right?
Yep. Correct.
So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how these stats change a little bit. And there's another slide too that I thought was really interesting. But basically what we're trying to do is, just build relationships, get us to the next level. We're actually making the appointments and getting business. We're going to skip the ahas. We got to get through this. So we're coming up with a plan. We're figuring out on an individual basis what works well for you. Now, I know there's lots of different, training sessions that Keller Williams does, and all about like numbers, playing that numbers game. How many people do you have to call to meet an actual goal that you set for yourself? I feel like this is really individual. It does all boil down to numbers, but we all do it a little bit differently, and you have to figure out what's going to work best for you. So touch plans, communicate with your database. If you have, if you set it up so that there's 36 to convert plan is comprehensive program to divert layers of input. Contains a mixture of phone calls, newsletters, events, marketing updates, volume evaluation, other value-based products. The trick is to find what people in your market and your market value, and design your own touch matches for those people. And again, it's individual, but it is, at the end of the day, it's numbers. So you want to figure out how many phone calls, how many mail outs, if you are even going to do mail outs, what's that mail out going to look like? And that boils down to, the whole idea about putting something out there. Like, for instance, I'm getting ready to do an advertisement on social media. I'm thinking about doing it on mail as well, because I'm trying to get to the numbers where I need to be. And I would like to target new home buyers that are maybe tired of multiple bidding. So again, I don't have the stats on this yet because I'm just starting to put it together now, but that is my motto. That's my thing. I'm going to be asking people, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're tired of multiple bids, reach out to me so I can help you. So basically, I'm trying to actually push them towards a certain product that I have that I know will fit into a, you know, a lower price point, which is the biggest challenge right now in Nova Scotia. So that's my niche that I'm trying to, you know, target for people. So setting these systems up are really important, and trying to figure out what it looks like for you as an individual is the key. Anybody have anything to add to that? Does anybody know, I guess, what their, how will you know what your contact value is? Anybody? So making an offer for immediate response, that's what you want to sort of think about. I guess, is anybody right now advertising on social media on a regular basis? No.
No, because everybody else is.
Okay. Who said that? Alex?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you probably just missed me a few minutes ago, but what are you doing? I guess share with everybody, how are you communicating with your database, and what are you doing to generate more business?
So communication, I'm kind of old school. I don't like the automated stuff. So I just like make a point of going through and just touching each person with a text or a call as much as I feel necessary. I am working on a monthly newsletter, so there's at least that one happening. But apart from that, that's how I'm touching people. And as for lead gen, that kind of like goes hand in hand with that. And then also a bit of social media advertising. I try not to do a whole lot of it because people are inundated with it. And then mostly, just database reach outs is my big thing.
So just focusing on your database and then having it organically grow from there is your okay.
And then I think mine is more in the follow-up than the generation. No matter how little the lead is, if I have the info, I create a opportunity, and then you can really see like what your actual leads are, and then move them along the line from nurture to meeting to closing.
Yeah. And here's a little side note that I've done in the past, not on a regular basis, but to me, it all falls into growing our business. And, you know, having, I guess, building relationships with other realtors and other brokerages. when I've had a listing and on closing day, you know, we're not the ones walking through because it's the buyers and the buyer's agent. So there's been multiple times where I've actually left 2 bottles of wine and 2 cards, one for the agent and one for the buyer, and basically just said, you know, congratulations. And to the agent, I'm like, awesome working with you, even if you've had struggles. I think it's important to always stay positive. So awesome working with you. Looking forward to doing another deal with you sometime. And, you know, if you want to hear more about KW, I'd love to share or whatever. Like, you know, like there's, that is just an easy, simple thing. And I know that I did it once with a Keller Williams agent before I was with Keller Williams. And she called me afterwards and she was like, she's like, I have never had anyone do that for me before. And my buyers were really impressed. And, you know, and I was really impressed. And it just really made the whole transaction, even though there was some struggles going through it, because we had, you know, some pretty heated buyers and sellers all at the same time. But she's like, at the end of the day, it was awesome to have something like that. And so, you know, I think that's sort of again, back to mindset and thinking outside of the box. Like, it shows that we're a professional company. And I guarantee you, if you know, if I'm doing that to another agent and they're with Royal LePage and they've never experienced that either, the minute they start getting a little bit antsy or unhappy, or maybe they just want to know more about Keller Williams, you know, they're going to be calling me first, because again, you're top of mind. So you're not only top of mind with buyers or sellers, but also agents, which I think is also another thing that I think people don't really think about often.
Yeah. I often, on a closing, on a buyer's closing, I offer to grab the lockbox, or even sometimes the sign, depending on where the closing is, and just save the listing realtor that trip out to the house after closing, just to get a simple lockbox. It's a nice touch like you do. B, the amount, I'm sure you've had it, your buyers call a week later and go, when is this flipping lockbox getting off my door? Just to save that as well.
Yeah. And so are people usually receptive to that? Do they want to give you their codes? And
it's 50-50. Usually when you're offering that, it's like way out of the city, and they're typically like the code box. So you don't even need a code. You just open it and flick the little handle. Some people love it, some don't. I drive a truck, so I always take my truck to closings in case there's garbage that I just take the garbage and don't deal with getting lawyers involved and stuff, just to save the closing and headaches. I'll even like offer to just like grab the signpost if it's still there, if they want, just bring it back to their brokerage.
Yeah, that's a nice idea.
Yeah.
And then I guess too, like, it allows you an opportunity to go into the brokerage or drop something off or show your face.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to skip a little bit of stuff here, but basically, you know, everyone has their individual numbers I have a very small team. So when I'm looking at year-end goals, I look at for myself and also the people on my team that I provide leads to, but they're still expected to generate their own leads and database. So the combination of that, again, it all goes back to numbers. So you want to work your numbers backwards, and everyone has different goals. So, you know, some people are happy making $60,000 a year, and other people feel like they need to make $250,000. So the basics are there, and it's just about figuring out how to get to that point, and then just being diligent to really work your database, because that's your key, right? How's everybody feeling so far? Give me some feedback. Is everyone still with us? I can only see Alex and Marcelo, so I'm not complaining.
I'm still here.
Are we ready to move on to the last session? I think this will we'll actually go through this fairly quickly because we've touched on a lot of it already. So let's just head to this. Goal setting. Everyone recognizes that page. I love the command system. And like I said before, like I'm still learning stuff every day, but it is awesome. It's there to help us, and it's really good. With the new people coming in, like Cameron, are you all set up on command?
I am. I haven't done a transaction for myself yet, so I'm just kind of bopping around there. I don't use it to prompt myself, but I am putting my contacts in and my leads and things like that.
That's great. And if I could turn back time and tell my own self when I first started real estate, to me, I think that like developing my database from day one would have been my number one tip, because when you start by day one and do it like what you're doing, you get into the habit of it and it becomes like second nature, and then you have something to work with. It's challenging when you get a couple years in, and then, you know, I've seen this many, many times where people work really hard, but they're kind of like doing all kinds of different things. They're not really creating a database. And then they get a couple of years in, they get a little bit busy, and there's always an excuse not to do it. And really, you're just doing yourself dissatisfaction, because you're potentially losing a lot of future business by not doing that, right?
Do you allot, like, if you were to make a recommendation to your past self, would you allot time every day, every week? Like, I know they say, I mean, some people say to put 100 contacts in a month, things like that.
Like, I think goals, I think, are always important. I definitely be allotting time if you're feeling like you need to time block stuff like that. If you're a very busy person, or if you're on a team, maybe your team has expectations as well. But definitely I would have started it, because I was one of those people. I was really busy right off the hop. And that was really because I had a database from my previous business. So as soon as I went into real estate, I reached out to everyone I did business with in the past and said, guess what? I'm doing real estate now. And I just got really busy really quick. And so I sort of had that already made, but it was about transferring it into a system. When I first started, I was with Exit Realty Metro. And, you know, there wasn't a system like this, like Keller Williams. So it was a little bit more difficult. And what do? Like human nature, if something's more difficult, we typically try to avoid it. So I had my database, it was just in a different format, and it wasn't actually going into something like what we have, like a command where it was like prompting me to do things. It was my own spreadsheet that I kind of did for myself. Make sense?
Yeah, totally. And also the SMART plans are something that I need to get into. I know everyone talks about it, but it just seems so daunting to me.
And I think for the first year in real estate, I think everything feels daunting. That's my personal opinion, because there's so much information that just gets dumped on you. And there are so many different ways to, like, you know, we got Paragon and web forms. We just have so much information that gets thrown to us that just figuring out the basics can feel really daunting even with that. But it's really great that you're on Maureen's team, because that will make your life so much better than just being on your own, I think. If I had an opportunity to join a team when I first started, I definitely would have done it, because having that extra little bit of support makes all the difference in the world. And I think that people who start out on teams tend to be sometimes can be more successful quicker, because they have a good you know, I guess foundation and support circle. And I'm not saying that people that are on their own don't, because Keller Williams, we're like one big family. There's always someone to help us. I don't know what I would have done in the beginning without Aaron. Alex, you probably feel the same. Yeah. Say yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you when you start to feel overwhelmed, just reach out to Maureen, because that's there is a lot of information. How are you feeling about that, Marcelo?
Yeah, I think for me, like joining a team, like I'm on Grant's team, but I'm also leveraged like other agents. Like I try to stay connected at the office, going to the office, going to the meetings, like meeting the agents from the office, because I think it's very important. And then you have that connection with them, and you can ask them questions like from different perspectives. And I know I've been helping also Melanie's team when they went away on holiday. So like I try to like be available, like as a new agent. Like I know that they don't like us to like logo ourselves as a new agent, but it is when you're starting, like it's very important to stay connected with as many people as you can, because they are the one with the experience. They are the one that can probably give you a piece of advice that maybe someone else didn't. Like, but it's very important. Like for me, like I joined a team because I wanted to be coach, and I think I would be lost if without the guidance of a team. That's for me was very important.
Yeah. And I think that too, there's nothing wrong with being a new agent. Everybody's new. We've all experienced it. And the idea of, you know, talking about it or feeling comfortable about being a new agent is the majority of your battle. And the great thing about Keller Williams, and also maybe, you know, being on Grant's team or Maureen's team or my team, whatever, it's, you can confidently tell people, you know, when you meet them, say, yes, I am a new agent, but the good thing is I have a whole team of people, you know. So when you're engaging with me, Marcelo, you're also getting Grant and Aaron, you know, like there's everyone to help everyone because you're a team. There's always positives, right? So now we're going to head into talking about qualifying our leads and how we do that. Sorry, we're just going to skip a couple things here. Do we need to talk about the do not call list? I know we've talked about it at almost every meeting. We all know about that and how it works, right?
Yeah.
We're not doing a 2-hour get together. Okay, 1 second. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so I think we're going to be able to fly through this probably in half an hour. And the reason why I think that is because we have a lot of senior agents that have been around for a long time. So we're going to have some good conversations about how we qualify people and where we take it from there. Just 1 second here. Finding the motivation. We all got that. This is really interesting, this. How buyers found their agents. Take a look at those stats.
Yeah, referrals is huge.
Huge, right?
Yeah.
Like it's incredible.
I mean, like, yeah, majority of it, like I say, majority of buyers are timid. Then they're just going to take, like, if somebody's already done the vetting for them, they're going to take that, like, obviously 47% of the time.
Right. And so, like, when we're looking at these numbers, like, what is it, like, how is it telling us where we're finding our potential buyers?
Well, look at the referrals versus open housing.
Exactly. Which, again, like, I'm going to say that these numbers are a little bit off because they're still probably based on 2021. But the next round might look even lower on open houses because for 2 years we didn't do them. So that might even be worse. But I know we've started doing open houses now. I did one a couple weeks ago. I had 36 people through.
Wow, that's a lot.
That is a lot, 36 people. And I felt like I should have had a mic, you know, because at one point there were so many people coming in the house and I was trying to engage and make eye contact with every single person coming through the door. ask them if they knew about the community, if they have been up there before. It's kind of unique. It was a land lease community in Hubley called Foxwood Village. So I was like, really needed to talk to these people. And because it was a unique property where I was doing this open house, there was a lot of questions. So at one point, I probably had 12 people standing in front of me, shooting questions at me and me just answering, right? So what was difficult for me was, I guess, managing, and it is a little bit out of the norm. 36 people is a lot for an open house, but managing, you know, I want to know who has a realtor, who can I potentially pick up or spend time on to pick them up, sorting that out, also showing the house, which is what I'm there to do, represent my sellers, right? Answer all the questions. And then also to, you know, if someone comes into an open house and I'm going to say to them, welcome to, you know, this one was 83 Birdsong Lane. Welcome to 83 Birdsong Lane. Are you already working with a realtor? If they said yes, next thing I'm going to say is, great. Who is it? Who's your realtor? And then they're going to tell me who it is. And the reason why you want to know who that is, so that you can follow up with that realtor. You want to say, they're going to come in and they're say, yeah, we're working with Alex Malcolm. And then I'm going to say, awesome, he's in my office. Alex is great. That's great. And then after the open house is over, I'm going to be phoning you and say, Alex, your client so-and-so and so-and-so came up. They walked through the house. I answered their questions. They seemed really interested. Let me get you some more information. So you always have follow-up. It doesn't matter if they have another realtor or if they are saying, no, we're not working with anyone. You're going to try to capture their information so that you can put them into your lead and maybe continue forward with it, right?
You also could catch them in a lie.
Yes.
If you ask them, are you working with a realtor? The easy answer is yes. And then you say who? If they can't give you a name, they're lying. Yeah. And then you can work that as well.
Has that happened to you?
Yeah.
Interesting. So how do you handle that?
I just started like put them on like a drip, like a reach out every now and then, but it eventually they stop answering. But it is funny, like they couldn't, we can't remember his name. It's like, oh yeah, because you weren't expecting me to ask you that. They obviously just want it left alone. But.
Yeah. And that's okay. Because you know what? In this industry, we need to realize that we're not going to capture 100% of every single person and every single lead. Like that's half the battle, because really sometimes there might be the odd person that you actually don't want to work with, and that's okay too. Right? We get to that point where when we talk about qualifying, there might be some people that you actually aren't a good fit with. Mm-hmm. Has anybody had that experience?
Many times.
And what tells you they're not a good fit for you?
I guess it depends on the situation. Obviously, my thing is, I guess I don't have a lot of D in me, but I'm very, when it's like when you're buying a house, like there you have to like know when to set emotions aside. And like, if it's just too much emotion, then we have to chat and be like, you might be better work with somebody else. Or, I mean, I had one where I was on a team in my first year and my team leader told me, he said, fire him. Like, it's okay. Like, he was just so much, like just so needy. Phone calls at 11 p.m. on Saturdays because he's freaking out about the property disclosure statement. Like, just like, eventually, like, your sanity is worth that commission check.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there's always going to be the situations too, probably not a lot, but the things are going to pop up where you decide that maybe you're not the right fit for them. They're not the right fit for you. And the easiest thing to do is give them to someone, at least a referral. Yeah. And so you're still capturing, you know, money through referral, but you're not dealing with the headache.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you think they're crazy, get rid of them.
And I can honestly tell you that I am guilty of putting myself through many situations where I'm just, I believe everybody. I'm a gullible person. I believe what people tell me. I trust people a lot. I see the good in people before I see the bad. And I don't think I'll ever change because it's kind of like my makeup. But you know, there are times certainly when I make decisions or start to see red flags and force myself to step back and really assess, you know. But I always try to find a way to still make sure everyone's happy, or try to make them happy, or try to still make money or whatever. Because, you know, and I'll give you an example of that. I have a client that I still work with now. They've purchased 3 properties with me, and I'm in the process of listing another property for them. They've given me, they're an A client, like they've given me numerous referrals over the past 3 years that I've known them. They actually wanted to purchase a house with another, that was listed with another brokerage. And to be honest, I didn't really want to deal with that builder. So I was honest with my client. I said, you know what? I know them from my past, and I'm not comfortable representing you in that capacity. So I'm going to give you to someone else who can. And it was the best thing that I ever did, because I probably would have been very biased and very, you know, you try to do the very best you can for your client. And I didn't think that was the best move for them. So I did give them to another realtor, and how it ended up playing out was that other realtor didn't want to deal with the builder either. And when the clients went and met with the builder basically told them they had to buy direct without another realtor, which is really shifty and should never happen in our industry, because we want to make sure that everyone has proper representation, whether it's a client or a customer. It's their decision, right? That's how that ended up playing out. But I'm glad I actually walked away. And I didn't make any money off of that, but that's okay, because they're still my clients. I'm now listing another property for them. We've moved on from that other one, and they're still sending me referrals. So, you know, it was about building that relationship that then goes out into other streamlines of income, right? Anyhow, buyers, I found this really interesting, these stats. So the next one is, maybe if I can get to it, hang on. Sellers. What do you think of this one?
Yeah. Wow.
Still, like, open houses, still very low percentage, which again, I find surprising, but it's probably going to look worse the next one. But referrals are still high up there. So these numbers are really just telling us that in our database, it's so important for us to, one, you know, keep in contact, you know, keep reaching out. Eventually it turns into a buyer or a seller. Then we do the transaction, then we do a good job, and then they refer us, right? Hopefully that's the chain of how it goes. Does anybody else see anything from these stats? What do you think this tells us?
It's crazy how quick it drops off.
Yeah.
Like it goes from 24% to 3%.
Yeah.
In first timers.
And also I found, like, the interesting part about online, like, website generation, you know, I think people do a lot of research online. A lot of times people know about homes and know more information about homes before we even get there to show it to them. But I thought that number was a little bit low.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even to referral from another agent. I thought that would be a little bit higher.
Yeah. I'm sure they're not terribly off though.
Yeah. And like first time sellers off of a sign call, 1%, like I get that.
Yeah.
You know, because your first time sellers, they've already had a buying experience. So they already used a realtor.
Mm-hmm.
Or are they reusing that realtor? So a used agent previously for that transaction. Those aren't bad, but they're not awesome either. I would think that would be a little bit higher. So you have to think like how good, if that now seller used to be a buyer, how was their experience and how was their transaction?
Yeah, you see it quite often though. Like if you go on Paragon, look at a listing and then look at its history from 5 years ago, like it's not common. Like it's probably about that. How many people, like I know I've listed tons of houses that have sold within the last 5 years and they're not using their buyer's agent.
Right. And then you have to think about why, like, you know, it does our job end once we have a lead, we turn it into a transaction, they buy the house, they close the house. Is that it? You know,
yeah.
Like they're now in a house. Chances are they're probably going to be there 5 to 10 years. How many realtors just walk away and go, okay, thanks for the money. And that's it, you know, because you sort of think to yourself, like how we have it in our database. Why not set them up on a system where we're reaching out maybe on their birthdays, or maybe it's just their anniversary, or how about the anniversary of when they bought their house?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like just some light contact, just so that they always remember who you are. And so that when they get to that point, and in between that point of like buying their house and let's say 10 years down the road, they're going to sell it. You got 10 solid years there to hopefully get some type of referral out of them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So they should be, you should be reaching out to these people, even though the transaction's done, there's always more.
Yeah. So I started on Chad McLeod's team when I first started, and when I used to run around with him every night showing properties, just being his little parrot. We always did that. We'd go showing a house out Stewiacke, and on the way back, he'd pop into somebody he closed 3 years ago and just door knock them and say, "Hey, I was showing a house down the road. Just popped in. House looking great." And like sometimes it was a 2-minute drop, and sometimes it was 20. At very least, tuck your business card into their door frame. They know who you are. They call you. They call you an hour later when they get home from hockey, soccer, groceries, whatever, and then they're sorry that they missed you.
Yeah. And another like habit too, I don't know if you do this, Alex, but I carry thank you cards in my car or blank notes. I have both. So that even if I want to do a quick little pop by and someone's at home, I can leave them a little card. Or if I leave a listing appointment and I'm not 100% sure if I'm getting that listing or not, I will actually sit there in my car before I leave their driveway and write a card, like a note, and put it in the mail so that a couple days later they get a card from me that says, "It was really nice seeing you. You know, if you have any questions, reach out," like that type of thing. Mm-hmm. They go a long way. Handwritten stuff, people love that shit. I do too. When I get a handwritten card, I have a few friends that one of them lives in the States, and I also have like a couple people from where I'm from that we on a regular basis send each other little notes and cards, and it's just, I don't know, it just feels so much more valued. Yeah. And when you can make yourself stand out above and beyond anyone else, you know, who's going to get that listing? The person that just shows up and goes through, you know, a little slide or something telling them how great they are and how they should choose them, or the person that went into the house and sat down and listened to them and then appreciated everything they said, remembered that their dog's name was Spooky and sent them a note afterwards. Because it just tells you like that you put yourself in that position, you would think, okay, that person actually cared and listened to me and understood me. And I think they're going to do a better job selling my house. Excuse me, I gotta blow my nose. I'm really sorry. I do have to run to the washroom, guys. So sorry.
Alex, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I used to do a bunch of business with Dartmouth Dodge years ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, one of my favorite accounts. I used to sell training, and God, it's been so long now, I can't remember the names, but I had the service manager, parts manager, and the owner.
Yeah. How long ago would this been?
Oh, God, 25 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Sonny Sightman was only the sales manager back then.
Yeah.
And he's probably the guy I didn't get that along with that well. He didn't go through my training.
I think that's a general consensus. I only met him once.
But I tell you, the owner back then was a real gentleman. God, he was a treat to work with.
Forget his name.
Yeah, it's been so long. I think he lived down in Musquodoboit way, and I also think he's passed since then.
Yeah.
But nice guy. He was the accountant, became the owner, I think is the path he took.
Mm-hmm.
But I did some work with a number of the different dealerships, and I also took sales training from Dartmouth Dodge.
Oh, nice.
They were offering free sales training one time. So I said, yeah, I'll take it. I figured it'd help me buy a car next time I went.
Yeah.
And I took the training, and then they offered me a job. I said, no, I'm not here for a job. Yeah. Go ahead. You're on.
All right. We lost Marcelo, but he's off to an exciting listing. I'm so excited for him. Okay. So when we're looking at qualifying our leads to take it to the next step, let me get back to my slides. I am not good at these slide things. Here we go.
That's your aha for the day.
Yeah. Able, willing, and ready. That's the key. Do they fall into all of those categories? So when we are determining the able, ready, and willingness of a potential client, we emphasize come from curiosity. And why do we stress this? Anybody heard that before?
Come from curiosity.
Come from curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah, just ask questions.
Yeah. So like, are they financially ready? You know, are they motivated? What's the situation? Do you have a hit list in their house that they are maybe feeling overwhelmed about? Can you try to ask the questions to determine how close are they, right? Mm-hmm. When are they ready to pull that trigger?
Yeah.
And also too, like, especially going through COVID in these times, it's not only important to talk about, you know, listing your house and what setting the expectations for that, but where are they going? What's their next step? Are they now a buyer? Are you helping them buy something? Are they just going into a rental because they're too overwhelmed with the buyer's market right now? All those things too come into play.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, that was one of my biggest things early on is I didn't take the time to do this. I just jumped and ran, like I'm sure most young agents do. And I've got burned a handful of times, like showing homes all day Saturday and Sunday and missing things I wanted to be doing, and then come to find out they weren't able. Able was always the big one. They were willing and they were ready / wanted to, but then all of a sudden we'd find a property, fall in love with it. Like, we need to talk money, and they were never pre-approved and they can't be. So then all those tanks of gas and hours on the road and showings are just wasted for nothing. So that was like huge for me, is like really delving into this before I jump and run to anybody.
Yes. Yeah. And were you able to salvage any of them?
A couple. They were like long-term though, but like you said, like a couple of years to figure out their finances and just drip on them. A few of them, most of them just ghost afterwards because they're embarrassed. They were just shopping with dreams instead of actual money, but
yeah. I actually have a client that I'm working with right now. I'm calling her a client. I do not have her signed up on an agreement, but I have nurtured this lady for 4 years and I am determined and I am not giving up. Eventually I know her house is going to come to market, but when we look at like, is she willing? She's 100% willing. Is she ready? That's kind of iffy. Is she able? Not really. Like the able part is a little bit bigger because she is struggling with some mental illness. So sometimes, you know, I'm having a conversation with her and I have gone out to her house. I have done all the measurements. I've lined up photographers. We've had a plan that we've talked about, you know, for 2-3 months. And then the day before the photographers are supposed to be there, she calls and cancels. So, you know, Mike, I don't know, maybe I need to walk away from this one, but I feel like I'm stubborn, you know, and at the same time, my heart goes out to her. Like, I know she needs to be in a small house that financially is a little bit easier for her, which will probably help on her mental illness. Am I her therapist? No. Do I feel like it sometimes? I think we all do with some people, right? But you're right. Like all these circles, they all have to come together for it to be a smoother transaction. Because if you're missing any of it, I don't want to say you're wasting your time, but it's a much harder struggle.
Yeah.
Well, I can say from experience, I've been on a lot of service clubs, in a lot of service clubs. I'm always one of those guys to help people. You know, I stop and pull over the side of the road and help somebody fix their tire. I help old people. I carry old people's groceries. And I got a couple clients over the years. One, I looked at the history and she had her house listed with, I think, 9 agents before me.
Yeah.
And the house didn't sell. And another agent had her and said, Mike, you like old people, you know, why don't you take this lady? And I said, well, you know, I don't know. I'll meet her with you. And I went in and met her and I said, okay, her husband's got Alzheimer's. She's there by herself. She's got to get out of this environment. So I'll help her. Every time I went there, I was so stressed out. It ruined me for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And she was calling me all the time. I sold her house. And I thought, oh, God, this is so good. You know, I got her, you know. Anyway, come the day of closing, she wouldn't move out. Now, luckily, the buyer walked away from the deal. But she wouldn't move out of the house. And that whole old cripes. And then she listed it with 3 or 4 more agents after me. And I phoned up some other agents that had her in the same thing. They sold the house for her, and she wouldn't move out. And that kind of scenario happened 2 or 3 times to me. And finally I said, man, enough's enough. If they're crazy, they need somebody else. I help old people that need help, but I'm not medical. You know, that's beyond me.
Well, there's definitely a pattern there. And at the end of the day, you're better to walk away from something like that, I would say.
Yeah. And recognize it early.
Yeah. I'll keep you guys posted on my gal.
Yeah, before you need help.
So classifying your opportunities. So we have 0 to 14 days, 15 to 60, and 61 plus. So buyer, seller in an A category, a B category, or a C. This is really helpful. I don't know if sometimes we can really put them solid into one of these spots, but certainly by asking a lot of the questions, when we get back to those curiosity questions, it does help us put them in one category or another. So why do qualifying? Well, this is pretty self-explanatory. We want to know, like what we've been talking about. We don't want to be wasting our time. We want to know what we're doing, where we're going, and where it's going to end up. The buyer lead sheets and seller lead sheets, does anybody use these?
No, but I should. I have.
I actually asked Jessica about this because I've never actually seen these sheets. But I think they're awesome. So I have used sheets like this in my past life because it sort of kept me on track with not getting, thrown off in my conversation, which can happen very easily to me. So it kept me focused, and it also kept my person focused on the other side of the line. I can tell you when I first moved to Nova Scotia, I got a job in my field, but it wasn't my exact field. It was still design. It was like higher end outdoor living spaces. It was a franchise, so they had systems in place. This was one of the things we had, which was a buyer lead sheet, where people would call in and then I would call them back and go through this list of questions. It's super helpful, but the key is to go through your questions as a conversation and not a checklist. Because the minute someone thinks on the other side of the line that you're just doing a checklist and you're not really listening to them, you're just like, okay, question 1, question 2, question 3. It becomes like you're a robot. So if you can have this list in front of you but then start the conversation with somebody and get the answers to all these questions without it feeling like a formal survey, you're so well ahead of the game, right? Mm-hmm. And it gives you the information that you need, which are all really key important things that you might not think to ask.
My old sales background was very much needs analysis.
Yeah.
And one of the first things someone said to me one time was, prognosis without diagnosis is malpractice. And in real estate, we tend to overlook that when we get in the business. But, a lot of times the buyers, like when I bought my first house, I don't know about you, Alex, I was only young when I got my house. I just wanted a house. I wanted out of the apartment. I wanted a house. There was no criteria. It just had to have 4 walls and its own piece of land, and I was happy. Now, mind you, I changed a lot over the years, my criteria in that. But a lot of buyers don't know what they want to buy. They want a house, but they don't know. And half the time, the husband and the wife have 2 different perceptions of what that house looked like. So,
and maybe 2 different budgets.
These questions help solidify that. And it's critical because if they can't identify the house, they won't recognize it when we show it to them. So we got to make that picture very clear in their mind as well as ours, so we all know which house we're looking for.
Yeah, I say to all my buyers, like same as that little triangle thing back there, the qualify. And I like location, price, and condition. Like what are those of those 3, like what's important? And then usually, yes, all 3 are important. Like they want the best shaped house for the least amount of money in their ideal neighborhood. But then at least like once you start that process, you can eventually, like, especially if it starts getting hard to find that, you ask them like, which one of these of the 3 could you get rid of?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, like we could get rid of condition because we don't mind putting in some sweat equity. Okay, perfect. That opens up the search criteria a little bit. And you just start massaging from there. Because you're right. Most people are just like, I don't know, a house. Semis, don't care. House, don't care. Just well, septic, doesn't matter. Just 4 walls and it has to be cheap.
And when you're having that conversation and then you finally get out to start showing them some houses and they're like, oh, we don't like this location, or no, the roof needs to be redone. So then you're circling back to the answers that they gave you, because then you're like, well, I know you said that the condition didn't really matter. So this is a fixer up, or what don't you like about it? So they can always change their mind as you go along too.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Mike, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, my first house, I just wanted a house. My second house, I wanted waterfront. However, I managed to get waterfront, and I also had this steep lawn. And I don't know how many times I went flying down the hill with me on the lawnmower, because once you cut the grass, it gets wet. And you start at the top and you start cutting down, and man, all of a sudden your feet come out from under you, and it's you and a live lawnmower flying around.
Yeah.
So, you know, after that, the criteria was no more slopes, right? I wanted level lots.
And we learn as we go.
Yeah. The criteria changes.
I would challenge you guys to try these sheets, and maybe even, you know, try them out on each other. If you buddy up with someone and just go through the sheet just to try it and see, because I think if we have this tool, and you practice a little bit, I think it can be really, really valuable. And not only just for the new people, but people that have been around for a while too. Like it's
valuable questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what you said, you know, it's got to be conversational. Nobody likes a script.
Nobody likes a script.
Even the scripts that we have in KW, you've got to internalize them.
You do, and you have to make them your own.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, why I got so far back here.
Todd's a great mentor, Alex, hey?
Chad, yeah, definitely.
Pre-listing questionnaire. And so like, this is really interesting too. And I've never seen this, but I think it's awesome. I asked Jessica if we had these in our KW system, and she thought it was just part of this program. So, but I'm going to ask and see if she can actually download these and put them into our Google Doc so everyone has access to it, because this
Great idea.
This is another tool that I think will be really helpful. We're not doing any role playing. So we're pretty much done. Is there anything that anyone wants to talk about? No?
Guess not.
Has this been helpful at all?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Yes, this has been great, Melanie.
If I was to leave you with anything, I would say that, you know, we've talked a lot about database and how to develop it. I think once we get into people's homes, you know, I'm just talking specific listings. The database is one way of you know, reaching out to people, keeping in contact. Once we actually get face to face with people, that's our winning moment, right? Because if you can do that statistically, you know, you have a very, very high percentage ratio of getting that listing. Once you get into someone's own personal space and you are chatting with them and you're finding connections and you see their dog or their cat that's a rag doll and your cousin breeds rag dolls, or you're trying to figure out how to connect with people outside of just, I'm here to list your house. What can what kind of questions can I answer for you? You know, it has to be a well-rounded, confidence building situation where you're connecting with people and you're working real estate into that connection. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that even for new people, I feel like once you get in the door, you're golden. You just got to remember, you know, like build your confidence and your connections with somebody, and then deal with, you know, your expertise, which is real estate. And if you don't have the answer to one of their questions, someone else does, and you can get it for them, right?
Yeah. Another big thing I find, like, it's hard, especially in this market, B, if you're new, like closings aren't frequent. at the end of the day, you're hired to look out for their best interest. And if that best interest is not trading in real estate right now, you have to tell them.
100%.
Like I have a seller right now who can't sell, like she can't sell. She has nowhere, she'll be homeless. I said, if I list your house, you'll be homeless. I'm not listing your house right now. And she's so appreciative of that because like she was looking at it with rose-colored glasses. And she was like, we'll just get it on the market and an apartment will show up for me. I'm like, no, it probably won't. Like, so I was like, you need to secure housing before we list your house. And like, that was huge because she said she had other realtors in that were just like, yeah, sign here. Let's put the sign in the yard and let's get this going. And like, she could end up being that seller that Mike just said he had that won't move out on closing day because she literally has nowhere to move to.
Yeah. And it makes you stand apart from anyone else. So you are now the lead professional. You're being honest, right? And you're looking out for her best interests with all those things above, you know, of course she's going to go with you. And yeah. I'll tell you a quick little scenario that just happened to me recently. A couple months ago, I had someone reach out to me and he said, you know, I have my house up for sale. He's like, I don't know why I totally forgot that you're in real estate. He's like, I deal with you all the time with other design stuff. And I forgot that you're a realtor. And I just happened to meet this realtor and he said I could sell my house and buy this other house that I'm interested in. And my house isn't moving and we're having a horrible time. And I said, okay, listen, you're under contract with somebody. I'm sure you can work it out. Long story short, he ended up calling me a couple weeks later and he said, listen, it didn't work out. We've canceled our contract with him. Will you meet us to talk about our listing? I said, sure. So I met up with him and his wife and we talked about their listing and what they were looking at getting into. And, and I was honest with him and I said, listen, I don't actually think you should sell your house. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I'll line you up with a mortgage broker and you guys can talk about the scenarios. I said, but I think you should keep your house and look into purchasing this other house while keeping your other one because it was a multi-unit. So they had 3 rental units in this house. I said, because if you guys move out of one of the rental units, you then are generating an income. So you should be able to afford the other house, but I'm not the person that's going to tell you that. It's going to be the mortgage person. Go and talk to them first. And that's exactly what they did. So they actually secured the house that they wanted. They rented out their other house and they're so happy. But, you know, he called me for a listing appointment and the whole thing just changed. And I was like, you shouldn't list your house. So being honest is really important. And that's what makes us really great realtors is because you can't focus on the money. You have to focus on the relationship and the money will come.
Yeah. Now, Alex, there'll be a lot of apartments coming due in June and July because that's the cycle for the university students.
Yeah.
Whether or not your client can afford it's another thing.
Yeah, this is unfortunately not in Halifax. It's in Windsor, which doesn't get affected by that.
No.
Either way. But yeah. Cool.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
It was a pleasure having you all here. I know a couple of people have left already.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie. This was great.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll both feel better, Melanie.
Okay, thanks.
See you later.
Bye.